This is a follow-up conversation about the Carlotta Pavese's presentation that I discussed in a previous episode. Carlotta is a philosophy professor at Cornell, and she gave a presentation at Stanford about intelligent socialism. Now, her presentation was about uh, the way I understood it is that she's discussing the classification of intelligence. She's making some claims about the validity of classifying intelligence one way or the other, and she's calling for socialism in intelligence in the sense that it's not worth classifying intelligence, therefore, different intelligences are considered to be of similar value. Now, she is making a few claims about what intelligence is. She's going sort of down the skills route, like many other researchers. And she's also pretty close to the robotics community by using things like adaptive, ability to learn, skills, flexibility, things along those lines. I had a conversation with her, and this is the amendment to this. I already spoke about this. I'm not going to repeat this. What I want to add here is some of the insights that I got from the conversation. There's really two interesting things. I asked her what her thoughts are about defining intelligence as simply the thing that we can program. In other words, whatever we can program, that's not intelligence. Whatever we cannot program, that is intelligence. Something along those lines. And then she said, "Well, that's kind of dangerous because you're falling into a circular argument here, which because you're also you're saying that the skill A is intelligent. However, if we can program it, then it somehow loses its lackluster. But then, or it's not worth being called intelligence, or maybe it's less valuable, or something like that. But the point is, what does it mean to be able to program, right? That in itself is an intelligence, and the programming skills can be built on top of knowledge that then can drive intelligence. So, is intelligence knowledge? Um, is it um, is it something else? So it opens up a Pandora's box of questions and answers, which really I think is what philosophy is all about. So that's a good thing. I think it also opens up a really interesting point, and that is the following. I had another question to Carlotta, and that was my suspicion or my idea of intelligence being um, just an arbitrary classification that comes after hierarchies have been built. So hierarchies are organic structures that form within humans, within mammals, within animals, within nature. Let's just stay with humans now. And we create a hierarchy, and then we justify the hierarchy with intelligence. You have strong men are more useful in certain settings, so therefore being strong is a form of intelligence. Smart math geniuses are useful in other settings, and they are considered, privileged, and so on and so forth. Uh, now, there's a couple of things here that I find very interesting, and she actually made the point when she opened up sort of this Pandora's box, in my opinion, of uh, a recursive nature of the argument that whatever we can program is not really intelligence anymore. It's less valuable intelligence, right? Because once we program it, we understand it. Once we understand it, it loses its lackluster. It's sort of like chess is not considered such a great achievement anymore because we know how to program it. We know how to program it, and therefore it's less valuable. We can argue if that's true or not, but what I find interesting is we could potentially say the following: any form of intelligence that we don't know how to program is, in a sense, um, not intelligence or not worth classifying because we don't understand it. Once we understand it, we can call it intelligence. We can call summarizing a text, which is something we understand how to program. we can do it. We solved that problem. There are several models out there and openly available tools that allow you to summarize text, mechanical tools, machines, basically computers. So therefore, we understand how that works, more or less. Of course, you can argue about interpretability of algorithms and things like that, but overall, we have a good sense for how to write an algorithm that is able to predict, to summarize text. So if we want to consider that thing still being, if you're good at summarizing text, you might still be considered intelligent. That's not the point. The point is that we should only have the right to call something intelligent if we understand what it is. And the rest, we might as well call it Zeus's caprice, right? It could be anything. So the ability to hold an egg, whether that's intelligence or not, is not up to us because we don't understand how to program it. We don't understand how to make a robot that can hold an egg. We don't know how to do that. We might be able to do that. I'm pretty sure we will at some point. But right now we don't understand how that works, so we can't call that thing intelligence. So this is really, in my opinion, a very powerful argument. And it just shows the power also of cross-disciplinary conversation, of having conversations with smart people like Carlotta in general. It's just valuable because you never know what comes out of it. These are very interesting encounters. You know, she's a philosopher. She talks about socialism. She really is, I would say, probably more politically inclined than anything. I didn't feel like she has a big interest in defining intelligence relative to machines or anything like that. She wanted to simply question the classification of intelligence, you know, things like the SAT and the university hierarchy that we live in and all that. And I think she's coming from a socialist background. I mean, I don't know if she's a socialist herself, but her ideas are such, and she admits that. And I thought that it was really interesting that I come from a robotics engineering background. Quite frankly, I'm even politically, it doesn't matter what my political views are, but I would say I'm probably more inclined towards meritocracy than not, right? So having said that, I now all of a sudden find myself in a place where I completely agree with her. She agrees with me. Interesting situation um, because we're coming from different places and we might as well meet and then see where we get at, right? So this is not the subject of this amendment because I can talk for hours now about the political ramifications of what I'm saying or what she's saying. So let me summarize what I'm saying. Let me summarize what Carlotta's saying. Let me then conclude with some of the new insights that I got. What I'm saying is that intelligence, as we call it intelligence, can be defined because we have now testable experiments. We can build intelligence, we can build robots, and then we can decide whatever is intelligence and what not, because we can build it. And once we build it, we understand it. My suggestion is that we call that anything that we know how to build, uh, we should be able to call this intelligence if we choose to do so. However, anything we don't know how to build, we should stay away from calling it intelligence. Or if we want to call it intelligence, we should at least not use it as a classification. So this would be my first statement. If we don't understand what, let's say, creativity is, then we shouldn't classify people based on creativity because we don't understand what it is. If we don't understand what, let's say, uh, problems that we can't solve. Let's say the canonical problem in robotics is the Robinson Crusoe robot. I've spoken about this in the past. Just think of a robot that can be stranded on a deserted island and figure out what it needs to do, that kind of thing. If that is intelligence, we still don't know how to program something like that. So therefore, we shouldn't be classifying people based on that. We understand how to build a robot that can be good at SAT. So I think we earned the right as a species to use the SAT as a classification mechanism. Now, having said that, this is now just a tangent. I believe most people would immediately say, well, we can't really use we can't use the SAT anymore because it looks like it's not really hard to do, right? Uh, I don't know. That's a different conversation. And then there's just a paper that came out recently in a joint work with A.T.L. Zurich and other people. Yannick Kierkegaard spoke about this today. Actually, I listened to it on YouTube, where he talks about the fact that potentially most of these types of solutions are just based on memory. That, in other words, the large models just memorize everything, and therefore, is that really intelligent? So we're opening up ourselves to but I want to keep this short. So I just want to say, if we know how to program it, we can call it intelligent. If we don't know how to program it, we might as well call it intelligence too. But we cannot use stuff that we don't know how to program as a classification mechanism. So this is the first thing. The second thing I want to say is that programming itself is a recursive method when it comes to intelligence, meaning that with more knowledge, with more intelligence, we can also get better at programming. So that's a moving target. Now, what Carlotta is saying is she's saying that we can't just use certain things, certain forms of intelligence as classifications, such as let's say cognitive, abilities, and leave other intelligences out. We should incorporate all of them and sort of combine it, or we should not classify society based on intelligence in just certain narrow ways. I agree with that. However, we still have to be able to classify people somehow, because we can't have them all go to Stanford. We can't have them all be CEOs of companies and so on and so forth. So we need to find ways to classify, at least in certain areas where there's a lot of demand for positions. Now, the takeaway for me personally is actually the following. The takeaway is the following: that the Robinson Crusoe intelligence is one form of intelligence that I believe is achievable, and that goes back to constructor theory, Chiara Marletto, David Deutsch, Karl Popper. That field, I think, opens up the door for Robinson Crusoe robots. In other words, if we have a universal constructor and a robot that knows how to use that universal constructor, we can, in principle, build a robot that can survive on Earth. So that can be solved. And therefore, I would say that we can call that intelligence, but it's not going to be interesting to us. Because what I'm calling for is, let's focus on intelligence that's good enough, intelligence that's good enough for us humans, because that's what we really care about, at least for now. What we care about is, or let's just assume we care about the kind of intelligence that really serves us humans. And that type of intelligence, in my opinion, has nothing to do with the Robinson Crusoe intelligence. That's the intelligence that goes more along the lines of the Aristotelian intelligence: virtue, humor, being good to other people, helping other people attain happiness. Those kinds of questions, in my opinion, open up the door for what I believe is the real type of intelligence that's going to be very, very difficult to program. Probably will going to take a long time, but that's the kind of work that I would be interested in working on. Thank you.